Today, you're joining us in our second rendition of Live with Zoup, brought to you by no other than Non-Fungibles, the world's largest NFT and non-fungible markets data platform, where we analyze market trends and NFT gems while answering all of your community questions with Gauthier, the COO and co-founder of Non-Fungibles. How are you doing, Gauthier?
I'm doing really good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. That's really an honor.
It's a pleasure having you always. So this is Anissa and Justin, and in the next 45 minutes, we'll be answering all of your questions about NFT games, art, collectibles, and the metaverse. So if you have any questions about NFTs, please post them into stream text, and Gian will be directing them to us. We'll try to answer every single one of them. So that said, as we gather some of our community questions, Gauthier, thank you so much for coming on. What have you or Non-Fungibles been up to this past week?
So many things, actually. The space is getting completely crazy these days. I mean, I just saw a couple of minutes before the live, a colleague at Non-Fungible just shared a recent sale of someone that purchased an asset at Loot Project for 0.2 ETH and resold it for 200 ETH within 5 days. In
That's
5 days.
insane.
So yeah, this is the kind of things that are happening these days, and basically we had a lot of requests from media recently about basically what's going on in the NFT space, and what we've seen is an absolutely crazy peak. I mean, I don't know if you've felt that, but basically what we've seen over August is almost 2 billion. I'm sorry, more than 2 billion USD traded over the month. So I just to give you a notion of that, share screen, this one, okay. Just so you have a notion of what's going on. That's basically the current trend of the NFT market since the beginning of the year. So, you know, in March, April, that was actually not a peak compared to what we have today. And it's mostly driven by the secondary market, of course. The volume of sales increased pretty massively too, pretty divided between primary and secondary market. So almost a million of NFTs sold over the month, or at least over almost a million sales, not really a million NFTs. And the volume of buyers is still increasing too. So basically, it's not just a couple of whales that are just filling their bags. That's definitely a huge peak of new people arriving every day, buying new stuff for crazy prices. I mean, just look at that. I mean, just an asset sold for almost $1,700,000 USD, 200 ETH. I mean, that's our daily life today. That's normal, almost.
Absolutely. I remember some time before, people were worried about the supply and demand aspect in the market, right? They were worried that there wasn't going to be enough demand in the market. But I think August in itself has proved just that. And I think looking back some of the data in OpenSea with the trading volume, I think a majority of their trading volume was actually in August alone, which is absolutely insane. And I think that this is due to how easy it is, or the barrier to entry is so low in comparison to, you know, other more technical NFT projects. But with, you know, generative art projects are much more easier to come into this space.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's really, really interesting to see that now. Owning a wallet, knowing basically how to purchase ETH is no more an entry barrier. A lot of people know how to do that, and yeah, I mean, it's extremely easy. You just have to click on something and here you are, you own NFTs. So
yes, you need to pick up something and remember to leave some ETH in your wallet, because gas are very expensive nowadays.
Gosh, yeah.
So I think speaking about PFP projects, we do have a question from our community. With the proliferation of PFP projects and generative art more broadly, have we seen a change in demand? Are one-on-one projects less popular now?
Not necessarily, but basically that's just a different kind of collection. So basically, you know, generative arts and collections like that have always been part of the NFT DNA. I mean, that's part of what we've always seen from day one. So No, it's just a different kind of use, a different kind of audience that purchase these kind of assets. I would say that some traditional art collectors are still extremely interested in the one-on-one artworks or pieces from different artists. But a lot of, let's say, people that come from the hype are really passionate about this, 10,000 something collectibles, just because of CryptoPunks, because of Bored Ape Yacht Club, these kind of things. Basically, they are precedents, and people consider that if you have made money with CryptoPunks, you can make money with all the new 10,000 collectibles. And to be honest, I have no clue if there is still room for profit on these collections.
Absolutely. And I think we're starting to see some people going back to see, essentially being these NFT archaeologists and seeing if whether there's any NFTs that were, for example, the first 10 on Ethereum, and going back, buying these up and seeing essentially if there's going to be mass adoption of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess with the current trends in the NFT space, especially after Visa's first purchase of a CryptoPunk, NBA players, etc., do you see an unbelievable potential for virtual collectibles leading to mass adoption?
Definitely. I don't think that the purchase of the purchase of a CryptoPunks by Visa is such a really massive sign of mass adoption. It's, in my opinion, more about communication or just giving a signal that, just we know what our NFT is and we have purchased one. I think it's basically more of a message, but at the end of the day, that doesn't change a lot about what our NFTs and what they can do. So, this is basically what we've seen almost a year ago. This kind of, let's say, small signals, and at the end of the day, Visa is just one small signal among a lot of others. It's just like, one way or another, if you are basically aware about technology today, you know about NFTs. You know what it is, and you have heard that this is some kind of stuff that you can purchase on the blockchain. You don't necessarily know right now what they can do and how you what is the real value of it. But what is interesting today, and I mean, really, despite all these figures about the market, is that almost everyone, or at least around me, knows what is an NFT. They have heard about that, and that means that within, I don't know, months, maybe years, basically these people won't be that afraid, scared about NFTs. It will be like, oh yeah, this is the kind of asset I've heard about a year ago. So there is something really about, NFTs are getting mainstream today. They are not yet mainstream, definitely. I mean, the figures we have, it's something like 200,000 buyers over August, which is cool, but not about getting mainstream. So that's, it's not mainstream yet, but we're really close to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they look at Visa's portfolio, I mean, in comparison to the punk that they bought, I mean, it's 150K. It is a small, very small investment in comparison to, the investment they made in totality. But it gives that extra reassurance to people that, hey, we're in this space. It's more of a marketing push for them. Though that being said, I think just to get this out of the way, why do you have a mannequin in the background?
That's a long story. Nope. Actually, it's because that's my home, actually, and that's supposed to be the office of my girlfriend, or my wife, sorry. And she is working with clothes. She's basically creating clothes for a pretty large luxury house in Paris. So basically, that's how she works.
I love it. I think everyone was wondering. And I see you have a poster of Pascal Boyard in the background as well, staying true to the French artist. Definitely a great artist, yeah.
Yeah, that's a gift. I've met him personally at EFCC, and he gave me this poster. I still have a little bag as well, and to be honest, I'm some sort of a huge fan, to be honest.
Same here. So I guess one thing that I'd really like to know is, what do you think happens? Like, for example, when huge franchises like Pokemon jumps into this space, and what chain do you think people would select if you were Pokemon? Because essentially you're seeing what Bradstall come into this space and they chose Wax in different, platforms. Like, what do you think, what aspects do they look at when choosing these chains and which one to put them on?
That's a very good question. I don't necessarily have the answer right now about which chain they should use. As a maximalist, as a DeFi maximalist, I would personally say Ethereum, mostly because of its, true decentralization, of its true ownership and everything. But if I were Pokemon, basically the question I would have would be which audience is on which chain. I mean, if I don't know, let's say that. Flow is for sport, that Wax is for art, and this kind of global trends, I would try to understand what kind of audience are active on each chain, to be sure that with a game like Pokemon, I hit directly my my audience. And on the other end, the question would be, of course, about which chain has the least barrier to entry. So basically, if you need to have a long KYC to create a wallet, to wait for a week or something extremely complex like that, of course, that would be a no-go. And the last one is maybe, and that's I think a question that each project should ask itself is, when you want to sell your assets, you have two strategies. The first one is to reach the people that are already active in the space. So basically, the whales, the collectors, the NFT traders, people like me and you that basically are into NFTs and that own, some ETH. We are extremely easy to target. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are the kind of people that may be able to spend, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 ETH, maybe if we are really, really crazy, on some assets. But that's a really small community. Let's say wealthy slash ready to spend community, but a small one. On the other end, you have a really huge community, which is basically the rest of the world, that is not active on, let's say, Ethereum or on blockchain. But these guys may be able to spend, I don't know, 20 USD, 30 USD on an asset, but you have potentially hundreds of millions of people ready to pay that. So basically, are you looking to sell at a high price quickly, so basically reaching out to the people that are already active, or are you looking to sell basically to the mainstream, which is a challenge because selling something on a blockchain to the mainstream is still a challenge today. So I don't have the answer about which chain, but that's basically the questions you have to ask yourself.
On the subject of that, do you see that more of these entries, such as, if Nintendo were to come into the space, that they'd be deploying their own chain instead of utilizing an existing one, just so they can maintain that control and that over their IP?
Actually, that's more or less what Dapper Labs has done with Flow. I don't know exactly what was the deal with NBA Top Shot, but basically they have created their own chain. So basically they control almost everything from A to Z. And I mean, from a next level standpoint, that's not truly decentralized. I mean, you own an asset which is on a blockchain owned by a company. So at the end of the day, that's possible, but a lot of projects or companies choose to create their own chain, even if it's just an EVM, so basically some sort of chain comparable to the Ethereum one. But I don't think it's the right approach. I mean, creating a new chain just because you want to sell your assets is not the right strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I'm seeing that a bit more, from Flow. I've been of the same mindset as well. Ronin have done the same sort of thing, where it's quite a centralized blockchain, and whilst it is stored on a blockchain, there's not a lot differentiating that versus just a database stored on a normal server when it's in very centrally controlled. So
Yeah, but I mean, there is a difference between run-in and flow. I mean, for run-in, for example, we know that there are different validators. Non-fungible is one of the node. We validate the run-in chain, and recently we have seen a lot of different new nodes. So basically, run-in is getting more and more decentralized, even if it has been created by Sky Mavis initially. But yeah, I mean, I don't know right now if we should better have gone to Polygon, or if run-in was really the only option. I'm not tech savvy enough to answer this question.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, and one thing that I'd like to ask as well, and I think we touched this briefly on our last session, but essentially with a huge amount of projects are essentially rushing into this space, and I think that a lot of them are getting ready to launch for the end of the year, because a lot of people are essentially thinking that Q4 is the NFT bull run, and I think that a lot of people have their minds set on that. But how do we determine or do our due diligence in the market, whether that's identifying wash trading in the market and things of that nature?
So maybe I'll start with that. I personally don't think Q4 is going to be a quarter of bull run for NFTs. My feeling is more about a stabilization, or maybe some sort of a dump on a lot of collections. Of course, I'm not saying that the NFT market is going to crash, that won't happen, but that a lot of worthless collection are going to get back to their original value, which is maybe close to nothing, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that in Q4, what we'll see is potentially that let's say the OG projects or the real projects bringing value will remain valuable. It may decrease a little bit because of a lot of factors, but I think that what we'll see is basically we are on a momentum of over speculation around. I mean, this example of an asset going from 600 to 700,000 USD within 5 days is a good example. That's basically the kind of things that happen today, and that happens on a daily basis. I mean, basically, if you're lucky enough, you can become millionaire within a week, and that's normal. So, I mean, I don't think this is going to last for long. So, I know that a lot of different whales and collectors are looking at the space right now, waiting for the next moves, just trying to see if there is a signal of a dump or not. And I may be wrong, and maybe we'll see a bull run. But I know that a lot of people are, let's say, concerned about the current state of the market. So.
You've mentioned that asset before, and it's got me intrigued. What asset was it that went from the 0.5 to?
I'll share the tweet with you. I'm just going to share that in Discord. In the stream text. Okay, let's put that in the stream text. That's this one. It's an asset from Loot Project. To be honest, I haven't checked exactly which asset it is.
Yeah, I have seen that on quite a few occasions, and I guess across crypto as a whole, that these massive price swings and fluctuations, and I don't know. Maybe I've been in the space a bit too long, but I feel that I feel a bit numb when you see these prices. It's just, to someone that's not used to it, seeing something fluctuate by such a huge amount would just be mind blowing. You're like, oh yeah, that happened yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, I mean, everything is so new. It's really hard to predict something, and that's why we have never predicted any value at Non-Fungible, just because that doesn't make any sense to predict the value.
So I think that I agree with you, right? I think that a lot of projects or a lot of traders now are focusing more on projects with fundamentals rather than the quick flip. And I think, again, that dates back to people finding, projects that were early on in the space so that they can retain more value and have that historical aspect. But I guess my question is, do you see the NFTs and utility, or utility and NFTs being the next big thing. So for example, NFTs garnering an access or entries to something else, because essentially I think that what a lot of people are looking at right now is essentially NFTs that are almost like a Russian doll. You have this NFT, you get to unlock something else, and then that something else unlocks something else, and it's never ending of benefits.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm personally convinced for more than a year now that the utility segment is the most undervalued one. So ENS is an example of them. There are so many other utility tokens that are basically, they are not hype, because basically it's, I would say something extremely useful is not necessarily hype. It's something, shiny, something that looks useless but that can be valuable. Art is definitely hype, because I'm sorry for that, but there's no utility behind art. It's just about owning it, about just having that feeling. So I'm personally convinced that, let's say that one day we'll see some sort of a global NFT market crash, let's say. I'm convinced that at that time, the only one asset that won't lose their value are the utilities. Just because basically you'll need to pay that much to, I don't know, access to that show, or just to enter this museum, or do something, basically. So, yeah, I'm really, really bullish about utilities.
Fascinating. So I think that in our last mod hour, we actually discussed this, and I think that it was a project that Gary Vee actually recently released for VeeFriends. I think he started like a restaurant where people who hold his NFTs or bought his book were able to, decide what the items on the menu were, and they were able to, garner access in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I've missed the question.
Yeah, so I just think it's fascinating that they're doing this. But yeah, I think that talking about, garnering access, I think that a lot of people are also creating new metaverses for garnering to these access, right? So what are some new metaverses that you're seeing that has piqued your interest?
I used to be bullish on a project which is called OVR, which is a metaverse using augmented reality. I've purchased a lot of parcels there, but to be honest, I haven't seen much activity recently, so I don't know exactly where the project is at right now. But this is basically the kind of project that is extremely, extremely interesting to me, because that's not only about just building a purely digital metaverse. It's about bridging the gap between physical and digital worlds. So basically, the parcel you purchase is a parcel on the physical world. So basically, the metaverse is just some sort of a layer on top of our, physical world. So, of course, I've purchased my own house and others. Just basically, and you can create some experiences in augmented reality on the parcels you own. So there is something really, bridging these gaps. So yeah, I'm personally convinced the future is there. On the other end, I'm really bullish on Ember Sword as well, but I think I'm not the only one.
I'm seeing that in the art space as well, where you're getting these drops that are coming with extra things like the infinity displays and assorted things to be able to display those NFTs on your wall and things like that. Is that something that tends to have a trend as well in as a separate market, the art that has a physical side of it? Or?
I think that having a physical version of your NFTs makes total sense. I mean, Crypto Kaijus were among the first one to do that, as far as I know, with these little plushies. I don't know if do you know Crypto Kaijus? They are really small and really, really cool plushies. I wanted to grab one recently, but on the secondary market, the average price is at something like $500,000. So I haven't purchased one. And yeah, having a physical version of the asset makes sense, but having just a screen which is dedicated to display your assets is not specifically a use case to me, or maybe I've missed something about this project. But it has been extremely hyped something like 10 years ago for old people to have a small screen on their table, basically showing numerical showing just pictures that they may swipe like that. But at the end of the day, that's not new. It's just a way to display a virtual image, in your living room. So, okay, what's the point? Is it really better than just a TV or just any kind of screen? I think it's just a temporary solution for people that don't understand that if you own an NFT, you own an artwork. Basically, if I show it on my phone like that, I don't show an image of it. I show the original NFT. What I get there or on my laptop is exactly the same thing, that's the original one. And the question I've always had when I was explaining what are NFTs to people is like, yeah, but you own nothing. If it's on internet, you own nothing. If it's on a screen, that's not an artwork. You own nothing. And basically, if I get an artwork, I can display it on my wall. That's not a use case. Displaying an artwork on your wall is maybe about, getting your living room looking better, maybe. But the real use case of art is about getting a feeling. It's about living something, about having this experience. So I think that this notion of screens to display an NFT in your living room is just a temporary solution for people that don't necessarily get exactly what are NFTs.
So what do you think of steps like what Damien Hirst is doing, where it's basically it's a countdown to where something is going to be burnt, whether that's the NFT or the physical, and it's not just displayed on the screen. You can own the original one, or you can keep it as an NFT, and then the physical is literally going to be burnt.
I think that's an interesting experiment that needs to be done. It's basically it's not that new, to be honest, to destroy or to burn an artwork, and to consider that destroying the artwork is part of the artwork itself. Just look at Banksy. And at the end of the day, I think that's different. It's just a matter of creating these two assets and trying the experiment of which one would you like to keep. So I see that more like an experiment than a real trend or something that is basically game-changing, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I certainly am enjoying some of the experiments that I'm seeing happen across the space.
Definitely. We have seen already a lot of experiments, and I think we're only at 1% of of what we can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we have a question from the community. There's a high rise in trading volume in generated projects. Where does this increase come from? Is it new investors or just a few same wallets?
That's both, actually. There are different factors. The first one is that the price of ETH increased drastically. And a lot of different tokens, mostly in the NFT space, a lot of tokens, of fungible tokens, have increased in terms of value massively. If you just look at Axie Infinity token, the AXS, it went from 4 USD in June to almost 80 right now. So let's say that you have put just 2,000 on this one, you are ready to invest. And I think that there is a lot of people like that basically I've put a small money on different tokens and that are now almost millionaire. So what we see is not only traditional whales just grabbing more and more, but some sort of new generation of whales that basically went rich with NFTs and that are now looking for the next CryptoPunks. And all these 10,000 collectibles are basically potential next CryptoPunks. So there is definitely this audience of this public of new rich people, and I think that we see and will see more and more traditional collectors, art collectors, or just investors, individuals entering the space. And as far as I know, these guys are supported by art curators, by people that know the space. So if you guys are looking for a job, I think that you'll definitely be able to help, these rich and lost people that just want to invest into NFTs.
You mentioned
Yeah.
one of the factors there as well was the increase in ETH or the price of ETH as part of that valuation, which ties in well with another question from the community of with the rise in the ETH price. Do you expect that it's going to the value of these NFTs are going to continue to follow in ETH, or do you think they're going to start to decouple from that and look back at like a more US dollar perspective?
That's a really good and really complex question. My feeling right now is that a lot of the whales and collectors are considering the ETH value more than the USD value, because there are more and more ETH maximalists. I mean, a lot of large NFT holders are ETH maximalist, and basically, even if they lose USD on a transaction, as long as they double the volume of ETH, they will continue to accumulate ETH, because they think that in 5-10 years from now, ETH will be worth more than Bitcoin, which is possible. I don't know. So I think that for at least probably until the end of the year, the price of NFTs should follow the same trend. And if the value of ETH increase, the value of NFTs will increase the same way. And maybe what we'll see is some sort of a cut in the global industry, with basically the newcomers thinking in terms of USD for, let's say, low or mid-value assets, and the top collectors and top value assets will be considering on an ETH value, because these guys will be ETH maximalists and will only consider the value in terms of ETH, whichever the current value of ETH. So yeah, I think that to consider the ETH value, you need to have really a lot of skin in the game, and to really have a deep faith into ETH. So yeah, I'm more and more considering that we'll see some sort of trends in terms of ETH and not in terms of USD. And I think that what happens right now with CryptoPunks is exactly that. I don't think that newcomers arrive and put 1 million or something like that USD. I think that this is the kind of guys that have 2,000 ETH for a lot of reasons. They were miners years ago, or they just have ETH for some reasons, and that consider that 1,000 ETH is a good investment. I think that's the beginning of this division in the industry.
So you mentioned as well about a lot of newcomers coming in and looking at things on the low end in terms of US dollars. Do you feel that the things like the gas price are going to dramatically impact how many people are willing to get into the space? And then as a result of that, do you see that there'll be more projects shift from mainnet to layer 2s like Polygon?
Definitely. I think that having an NFT on ETH on the main chain, it would be something like a luxury. Basically, to be able to purchase one on the mainnet and not on Polygon would be maybe something, let's say, worth more, or just a few projects would continue to mint assets on the main chain because of the gas fees, for now at least. And of course, we'll see more and more people on Polygon, on Ronin, on the side chains or others that are able to purchase something with extremely low gas fees, because personally I've noticed how my reaction to gas fees have changed over time. At the really beginning, when I had to pay 4, 5, 10 USD for a transaction, I was like, oh gosh, that's money. I mean, I'm losing currently 10 USD. That's a lot. Now, when I see something like $20, I'm like, yeah, go. I don't care. Just because I'm more and more thinking in terms of ETH, I'm definitely maximalist, ETH maximalist, and I'm let's say there is this division in the community. I will definitely be part of the people that consider the high value asset or this value in terms of ETH. But someone which is not in the space, and you tell him that he has to pay 20, 30, 100 ETH in terms of gas, will never pay that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I do think that could cause some division in the future. I mean, obviously, one of the selling points for blockchain, aside from decentralized, is or can be the reduction of fees as opposed to traditional transaction fees on other marketplaces. But once gas starts creeping up in price, that kind of offsets that a fair bit.
Absolutely.
So I think that there is a set of standard patterns when we're looking at NFT projects right now, or the NFT, or the beginning of the NFT project super cycle, is that there is this innovative new project that comes along, they kind of get pulled up market, and then they get a bit stagnant, and then, a bit calcified, and then it gets turned, in turn it gets replaced by some nimbler and more agile version. And this is kind of just the NFT beginning project cycle of life that I'm seeing right now. And I think that most evidently, I think we saw this with Kongs, crypto Kongs, and Bored Yacht 8 Club and the Mutant Yacht 8 Club. Now they're having different agile versions of it. What are your thoughts of some of these projects, and are there any new projects that have excited you in terms of a newer, cooler version that has replaced the original?
To be completely honest, I'm not extremely active in the collectibles field because that's just not my dope. But I mean, it needs to be done. It's not that the first version was not good, just that why not trying? If you can do something different, something that brings value, let's try it. And maybe my only concern about that is that a lot of these initiatives are not about trying something new or trying to, bring value differently. It's just about basically using a good old recipe and do the exact same thing with just a different pixel. Just saying, hey, just look at that's new. Just spend your ETH there because that's new. No, it's not new at all. So yeah, my only concern about this kind of projects, I mean, not the one you mentioned, but this some sort of copycat / new version, a remastered version, is that a lot of them are not about bringing something new, but just about trying to grab some money. And these money-grabbing projects are, in my opinion, jeopardizing the global NFT industry. Because, a lot of people, a lot of media are just waiting for that, for people basically getting scammed or just getting into some sort of a Ponzi. And we'll see that. And that's why, the new versions of a project are not necessarily about doing something new, but just trying to piggyback on something already existed, on something which is truly new.
Yeah, so I think that one other thing that I'm seeing some projects emerging are that they're starting to use tokens, because essentially internet money is $1 trillion sector in terms of market cap. So of course, different NFT projects or marketplaces right now are starting to use tokens to reward and funnel back money into early backers in their projects. So again, are there any projects that you're seeing or metaverses that you're seeing are starting to do this? And why aren't more metaverses putting tokens into their platform so that they can actually truly have an open, unifying financial system?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you're right. A lot of projects have done that, and initially I was kind of perplexed with that because, it really looked like ICOs to me. It really looked like just issuing a token to basically raise money without raising money. But more and more, I see the value of that. And I mean, the sandbox, Decentraland was the first one. Decentraland, the sandbox. I know Axie Infinity has done that as well. So I'm still not 100% convinced because I think we've not explored everything, and there is still a lot of room to create something really, complete with a real deep and really smart tokenomics. I'm personally pretty active on Axie Infinity, and yeah, I totally understood why and how they have created these two tokens, the AXS and SLP, and they make total sense. So yeah, I think that's part of the new, it's not that new, of the massive trends of 2021. I really hope that we won't see. Yeah, I'm definitely farming a lot of SLP. Yeah, I am a manager. I do have some scholars. Yeah, that's right. I only hope that we won't see the same craze that we've seen with ICOs, with other projects creating a token because you need a token. But this is and still it's not new. We'll see this kind of back and forth between a real good idea with something extremely innovative with just the occasion, the opportunity to make money fast. So I think we'll see some sort of a craze maybe within a year, and it will go down to just the real project with real value.
Yeah, I mean, if there were more utility or use cases in terms of tokens and a unifying financial system, then people would be more inclined to buy skins. Because one way to amplify utility in these open metaverses would be to integrate a token for buys and sales, right? Either trades, and this can really have a paradigm shift with this closed ecosystem, which I feel like is what a lot of existing metaverses has. But I guess speaking about metaverses and skins, what are your thoughts on digital fashion? We're seeing a lot of Web3 fashion brands popping up that are actually pulling and connecting traditional artists into this space. What are your thoughts on skins and, the implementation of IoT devices in VR and AR?
I think that's an absolutely amazing thing. I'm extremely excited about that. I've heard about the first project something like maybe a year and a half ago. And that's funny how it went from wearables and basically it moved to some sort of gap bridging between the physical and digital world. And yeah, I think that's definitely one of a trend to follow. Digital, fashion NFT is definitely something that is going to be absolutely massive. There are so many things to do, so many opportunities to create value like that, to experiment, to create something. Just if you take the example of Damien Hirst, something like an hybrid of you purchase a dress and you get the exact same dress as an NFT. Which one are you going to keep? Are you going to lose the physical one? Do you prefer the NFT one? I mean, this is a kind of experiment that may be extremely exciting. And at the end of the day, let's say that, Kim Kardashian owned a crazy dress and you just own the NFT of that dress because she gave it to you or she offered that to someone. I mean, that can definitely be some sort of the alter ego of the physical one. But just thinking out loud, but yeah, I'm really excited about this intersection.
Yeah, I think that recently Valentino and Marc Jacobs also collaborated with Card-Chung to create 20 plus outfits for Nintendo's Animal Crossing. And I think that last year a virtual Gucci bag actually sold for, I think, 4,000 on Roblox. Which was more expensive than the physical handbag itself. So it's interesting that people are actually selecting NFTs to own it on the blockchain than the physical. I remember seeing some memes or some threads on Twitter where people were like, why would you buy a physical watch when you could have one in the metaverse?
Yeah, and maybe I just want to add something about the value of the NFT versus the value of a physical one. In my opinion, it's not necessarily because of the actual market value of the asset, but maybe because the relationship with money, with value, is not the same on the blockchain and on the traditional world. Let's say traditional with fiat, because these examples of people that basically won $500,000 in a week, which occurs almost every day. I mean, these kind of examples makes that some people lose the notion of money. I mean, I think that we see some people investing crazy amounts in assets, and of course the value of these assets, but they are ready to pay way more than what they may have invested in the traditional world for the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think it just comes with the whole FOMO that this market is coming into, right? I mean, it's funny, right? I think that I read an article some time ago, but fake news on Twitter spends 6 times faster on Twitter than any other platform, and Twitter and NFTs come hand in hand. So typically, when people hear about something going boom, then people obviously rush to it. And I think with the prolific amount of celebrities that are honing into this space and collecting NFTs, that
Yep.
also has a huge influence on how people, act or react.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I remember that Kanye West, yeah, it was Kanye West that had a CryptoPunk as a Twitter profile picture.
I mean, I feel like everyone has a CryptoPunk as a profile picture now, so I can barely recommend,
You're right.
recognize them anymore.
Yeah, I thought it was Kanye West, but I don't know if he has actually purchased the CryptoPunk or not. Huh. I need to double check.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, and I think that, with a lot of traditional auction houses are actually collaborating with these PFE projects as well. And I think most recently, Sotheby's actually partnered with, was it Board 8 Yacht Clubs. Do you see this trend actually repeating itself maybe next year to other traditional auction houses like Christie's and so on and so forth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's we yeah, I think that's definitely a trend that we'll see growing in the next few months and years. I don't know if this auction house will continue to sell collectibles. It's
Mhm.
possible that after some time they will restrict their sales to purely artworks or extremely verified kind of artworks or something like that. I think they will become more and more selective. Um, and I personally see the current state of things with the sale of CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club recently, like, yeah, experiments. I think they are in some sort of a test and learn approach. They probably have some sort of a champion in their team that is basically trying to push to sell
Mhm.
this and showing that they can do that. They are modern. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they will really build some sort of a side offer or some sort of side services, or they will even automate that. I don't know exactly what is the strategy with that. I personally think they don't have a real strategy right now, but they are basically seeing what they can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that said, we are nearing the end of this interview. However, I do want to end on one last note, and that's Axie Infinity. I know you're a huge fan of it, so I'm going to end with that. But essentially, Axie Infinity just made 200 million in July alone, and it's still growing at an insane pace. And I think most importantly, people, and especially in Southeast Asia, are quitting their jobs to play the game to make money, which is absolutely insane. So, I think on average, Axie Infinity players can earn around 1,500 per month, which is a lot of money in countries like the Philippines and so on and so forth. So why are other games not able to repeat the same heights as Axie Infinity did with play to earn gaming mechanics? I know that a lot of people are trying to use staking mechanics or DeFi incentives to, for example, if they were to stake their collectible, then they would be able to earn money over time. But why are not other people or other gaming companies not able to replicate Axie Infinity's mechanics as fast as they want to?
That's a really good question, and honestly, I would have been able to answer this question 3 months ago. But after some hours of gaming, I know now. So, firstly, Axie Infinity is not a young game. They have
Mm.
spent so much time and energy, and I've met Geos so many times at different events, and they are really working and building their community for years now.
No.
And people that went in the game at the beginning were not there to make money. They were there for the game, just because it was funny to play Axie Infinity. And the second thing is that their tokenomics is extremely complex. The game design is maybe not extremely complex, but it's really, really smart. So basically, they find some sort of a balance that is basically able to, that requires you to invest your time and energy within the game, but they are not done yet. Their tokenomics is not perfect. I mean, if you just look at the current value of SLP, it decreases every day, just because farming is pretty easy. They have changed some parameters in the game, which makes that now you're not able to generate 1.5 thousand per month, but basically half of that. So it's still profitable, and for a lot of people, mostly in the Philippines, it's extremely profitable. It's extremely well paid, more than a traditional job. And that's why, as far as I know, Axie Infinity has or is about to have some sort of an agreement with the Philippine government, because it's getting extremely massive in this country. So why other projects haven't replicated that? Because it takes time to build such a tokenomics. It takes time to build such a community, and that the recipe is not perfect yet. I mean, if the trend continues like that, I think that in 3 months from now, or maybe 4 months, I don't know, all the people that play only for money will move from Axie, just because it won't be profitable enough. And I'm in France, and I know that in some countries around France, like for example Morocco and Tunisia, for example, it's pretty easy. It was pretty easy to find scholars because it was profitable even for these guys. Now, with the current state of the game, with a new mechanism, the value of SLP, these guys are not interested anymore in being scholars. So there is really something complex and extremely political about playing Axie and everything. So it's not that easy.
That's fascinating, with the mechanisms and the multiple components that actually come into it and tie into it. But essentially, I think that one of the main reasons why Axie Infinity has managed to succeed is because of their ability to really motivate people. It's their intrinsic motivation for people to continue playing and the long-term path to mystery. So it's definitely an interesting mechanic, and the tokenomics is, still renovating and they're still reiterating over time.
Yeah.
With that said, Zoup, it was an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining us with your mannequin and your Pascal Boyard poster in the background. We love seeing that yes on the other side. And thank you so much for joining me, and Daphne for double boxing in the stream text comments, helping out with more of all of the technical questions. So thank you both. Thank you everyone for joining. Huge shout out to stream text for all of your wonderful questions. You guys are amazing. Remember to join in to our interview next with Taigua Tiang and TR Labs. But yeah, we're going to be here with Live with Zoup and Gauthier every bi-weekly on Thursday at 9 a.m. ET. So remember to tune in and have an amazing day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
See ya.